This is Suspenders Unbuttoned podcast. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Julie.
Join us for unbuttoned and unedited conversations.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Suspenders Unbuttoned podcast. My name is Sarah.
And I'm Julie, and we're excited to welcome Sarah Mabberley. She is a set production designer. Let me get that right, for When Calls the Heart and a wide variety of other things.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I've gone by a few different names. Well, goodness, I started as just a day call set dresser in season 5. And then the next season, I was the set decorator, so head of the decorating department. And then I've done that up until last season when they bumped me up to production designer. So that was season 11 and now season 12.
That's great. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Tell us the difference. Like, so when you got production designer, what changed for you?
A lot of responsibility. Well, the set decoration is a department within the art department. So you've got props, you've got set deck, you've got special effects, you've got greens, you've got paint, you've got construction, and that's all under the art department umbrella, all of which are led by the production designer. So there's kind of that tier. And then as the production designer, I do oversee the direction of all of those departments, of course, under the master direction of the director and the writers and the network and the showrunner and everybody. So I channel all that information and then give it to the heads of department. And then I get to also like design the sets and what that looks like and design the overall feel of the production, based on the notes I've been given and the script.
Oh, I love that. Julie and I have been talking to a lot of people involved in the show, and something we've been telling everybody is that the overall feel to seasons 10 and 11 they felt like really new and fresh. So I think that also applies to the sets.
Yeah, I would agree with that observation. We're certainly moving to a new time just in general within our world. We started in 1910. And we've ended in 1921 in our last season. And so there's going to be growth and there's going to be those developments, and even just so much happened during that time in the world. So naturally, Hope Valley has been influenced and has adopted these new ways. And we also, it's important for us to keep things fresh. You don't ever want to go stale. And although this is such a story-driven series, of course, these characters are truly the heart, but When Calls the Heart is kind of the Hope Valley is the body of that. And so you want to keep that always new and exciting as well. But the fine balance is making sure that you still keep it, Hope Valley, because you don't want to get rid of all of those special things that make it what it is. But you want to enhance them for sure. And change can be hard, but change can be good. So,
right.
We've loved some of the visual changes that have happened. Like, it gives us something different to look at as viewers who have been watched all the seasons. Like, we like seeing like some of those fresh things. Like, there's a little park in Hope Valley now.
Yeah, that one was fun. And that came kind of off of the heels of me becoming a mom as well. And wanting to, just my like mom instinct was like, let's put kids stuff in there and like, let's have a little community space. I mean, it's a community, there's a community everywhere you look, but it was nice to have that little special place because we haven't really had that for the kids outside of their school.
Right.
And so having this new little place that they can come and hang out and bring them together, because we've seen these kids, grow and oh my goodness, they're like our own children in that sense. And you want to give them that space then to play and what better than a little community park where they can also then learn about vegetables and growing in that regard too. So there's kind of a tie between watching the flowers grow and watching the children grow. And so there is a lot woven into that.
That's so sweet.
I feel like the writers and the directors have really taken on that little space too. And it's just so natural. Like parents sitting and talking at the park is like as old as time, honestly, right?
Yeah.
So like that's fresh and new, but it feels completely like the right thing for Hope Valley.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting the location that we chose, because it was also behind like Rose and Lee, who are like new parents. So this is a new extension of them as well, and like literally the extension is their, you know, the back of their backyard, the back of the Coulter offices. So there's that too. It was like that's an extension of that family, but you've still got, you can see the pond, you can see the church, and so it really felt central too.
Yeah, I love that, because it gives a place. Now that these kids are in, the new kids, you know, Jack is growing up, he needs a place to play. There's Lily, and now there's baby Goldie. It's just such a natural way to integrate them more into seeing them in the community.
Yeah, exactly. And that was also the fun part of introducing the daycare.
Right.
Which we haven't seen inside of yet. But
no, we have not. It is still gowans on the inside.
OL's happening in there, but
but the fun fact about that daycare sign is actually my son's handprints.
Oh,
perfect.
Yeah, and because his grandfather is Martin Cummins,
right?
And so they actually did that together.
Oh,
I had Martin bring him in.
Sweet.
Yeah, Martin will look after him, so I had them come into the office one day and make that, and it was kind of cute to, like, and this was totally selfish on my part. It was like seeing Gowans turn into the daycare, and it was like seeing, you know, granddad's office turn into, you know, where the kids are. So there was like this weird emotional, you know, hormonal
totally
connection to that too.
Perfect.
Everyone's like, okay, Sarah.
It's perfect though. Like it's like that circle thing.
Exactly,
and,
yeah.
Right. Plus a sign in that time would have been made like that. Right.
Yes.
Would have been a giant metal sign.
Yeah, and I find that like a really important feature when doing designs, is making sure that we are completely staying within that authentic, you know, and there was always something fancier, you know, it's like they weren't stuck in like the 1500s, of course. Right. There's advancements of the time, but you want to make sure that it's still some of those things can still hearken to modern times. And so you want to be careful. It's like, even though you saw these things back then, it still looks modern, and so you want to pull back to that place where all of a sudden it like clicks and like this still feels of the time. So there's a really interesting balance with that, and we see it, you know, even when we're doing Christmas episodes, when we were doing that, it's like we did see Christmas lights, and we did see you know, baubles back then, and maybe we can't really find it now in its true authentic self, but we're still hearkening back to the time where, yes, they had these things. They just looked a little different, you know. But we still have to give that feeling and pay homage to that time.
Right. I never thought of that, about how, you know, do you have another example other than the Christmas lights, something that maybe you had to pull back on a little so it wouldn't show too modern?
Well, I mean, but another thing is fairy lights. So I know we're still on lights, but those, what we consider fairy lights, those thinner ones, and you know, we saw it. I mean, we see it often, and we kind of create these walls of light. We saw it in the library when, you know, with Elizabeth and Lucas, and in that moment when they kissed, and we had to like justify they wanted them, and I was like, okay, wait a second, let me do some research. Let me see, because I wouldn't have normally just like been like fairy lights, but like, hey, what about these twinkly fairy lights? I'm like, I have to do some research. And they did exist, and the reason they're called fairy lights is because way back when they were doing the Nutcracker ballet, the fairies had lights in their costumes. They were like sewn into their costumes with massive battery packs on them.
Wow.
And that's why they're called fairy lights.
Okay.
So again, it's like, we'll never be able to find those true fairy lights, nor would I, if I did, I would not want to even attempt to use them because of higher fire hazards. But yes, so there's another example of like, okay, they would have had access to these lights. They're not going to look like they did, but
Right.
what can we do to, you know, add the same feeling without looking too modern? And so yeah, you've got to, there's some fine lines, but at the end of the day, it's about making sure that you're staying with that true authentic feeling, and representing that era the absolute best you can, while still, you know, telling the story.
Right. You know, on the other end of that, though, the hand-carved wooden signs are very common in small towns or in up north where I am in cabin country.
Yeah.
Like that look is very, very common. And so it's, you know, it's like the line is hard sometimes.
Yeah, and even just the concept of telephones and having street lights, and of course, again, they all existed at the time, but making sure even down to like the wiring, making sure that it's like the fabric twisted,
Right.
cording, and we don't have power lines in the town because that would just be a huge logistical nightmare that I would never want to, you know. So there's a bit of movie magic that goes behind it. You know, and there's the argument of, well, would they have had this many phones in this small town, and would they have these things? It's like, you know what, maybe not, but who's to say?
Right.
I'm going to say by the 1920s, though, probably.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
By the 1920s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not, you know, they're in a quaint little town, but they're not in the middle of nowhere. They have access to
Right.
Right.
They're not in an abandoned island, so
Right.
Yeah, but like my point of that is like sometimes I can think that I go like, oh wait, and I overthink it, and then I go like, okay, no, no, sorry.
No, they're just a small town, but they're not abandoned.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, you get that invested in it.
I do love that, and also like from where you started to where you are now, a lot of things did change. Like this was rapid change in the world, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the beauty of the show is that even if it's not pulling on some of the true moments in our history, I think they do a really good job of still bringing, you know, the story in a different light, and the heart of the resolutions that they come up with and how they deal with these tougher moments. I think those run really great parallels to a lot of the things that are happening in the real world and the things that happened in history that we don't necessarily want to, you know, make this about disease and war and some of those hardships that obviously that the world was going, you know, was happening at, you know, in the 20s, and but this is still there's still a reality and a real life to these characters that I think are really beautiful.
Yeah, we agree.
I love that. So, your team under your kind of, you have a big umbrella, right? How many people does that include? Is that like 5 or 50 or?
Oh goodness. Well, each department has a head of department. So set deck, props, special effects, greens, construction, and paint. So 6, and then they'll have assists, so like 12. Props has 12, 13, 14. Set deck has 17, 18, 19, 20, plus like 72 day calls. Special effects then has 2 people on set. I mean, it's excessive. And then there's the art department. So directly beside me are my art director and then my art coordinator and graphics. So the teams are massive. It's upwards of, you know, 25, 30. But I would say set deck has the biggest department because they have the most people coming in to doing dresses. But on set at all times, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
6 plus our on set.
Yeah. But the numbers like expand quickly. Like that's what I'm like. I actually bet it's a lot more people than people think that are needed to make make the magic happen.
Right.
Oh yeah. The one of the joys that I love Excel spreadsheets so much. And it's like, and that's why I think I love this job is, well, when I was set decorator, it's like the equal balance of creative and administrative that I'm just obsessed. I'm a Libra. So like finding the balance. And so doing like the day out of days and doing charts with like, you know, these are the days we're working and we get this many people and drawing X's. And so it's like, you could see, and then all of a sudden prep has, you know, like there's like 50 days and or not 50 days, but you know, 50 shifts within the 3 weeks that set deck gets to set up. I get 4 weeks, set deck it's 3 weeks, and then props get 3 weeks. So it's usually about 3 to 4 weeks that we go from absolutely nothing in Jamestown to 100%.
So when you do that, when you start setting up, are you setting up just like all the basics, like how it's dressed, and then you might have to go in there and make changes because of scripts, or how does that work?
So as production designer, so I get in a month before we go to camera. I'll get the scripts. We talk to the directors. We talk to, you know, the network and our showrunners. We just talk about the overall season and what, you know, the direction that we're going, any changes that we want to make, like notes and, you know, positive or good or negative. And then we go from there. And then we, you know, we break down the scripts and see what's new. We look at, you know, what time within their year that we're starting, whether it's like a straight, you know, back to back where we ended is where we're starting, or if there's a time jump for in a different season. And then, I mean, I'm always a fan of change in that this is a living, breathing place. And so I don't want to put everything back where I left it, because no one lives that way. And so what I would tell my team, and even now as production designer, I say, you know, this has to be the same, but everything else, please just enjoy your creativity. And it's like, this is still the cafe, and this is still the barber shop, and you know, all of these places still, everything still has its home, but feel free to move stuff around, all the small stuff. And then again, if there's any notes, and then, you know, I'll do drawings, I'll do concepts, I'll make plans, and then distribute that amongst those who need to know. But and then anything new, of course, we'll build that, and we'll source that based on what the script is telling us we need now. And then, you know, and of course some stuff doesn't come back, and it's all in our lockup, which is too small to hold everything, but we do it every year, and it's magic.
It's a magical
Magic.
lockup.
I call it feels like a lot of work, actually.
I call it the room of requirement, because it truly, you're like, I don't understand how this works at all. And then set deck comes on, and we have our concept meetings, we have design meetings, we have our separate departmental meetings, where we just discuss everything kind of on a repeat. And then the town takes 2 weeks to actually like physically load in. We get 2 trucks, they pull up to the lockup. We've got one team on site, one team at the lockup, and it's just trucks going like this, loading, unloading, loading, unloading. And we get every item typically on set in 1 week. Everything boxes, furniture into the sets, and then we take 1 week to just dress it. And set up, and you know, depending on the needs of the first block, sometimes we'll pull more people in to accomplish a big event or set or whatever that looks like. And then you just cross your fingers.
I love that you call it the room of requirement. We have nicknamed the back door of the Mountie office the room of requirement. Jack used to sleep back there. It stores butter churns in case you need those, right? Or it could be a Mountie workout area. We have no idea.
Honestly, I don't even know what it is anymore.
Yeah. Who knows? We might have something new this season. The room of requirement.
It's whatever it needs to be. Yeah.
It truly is.
Sounds like Hope Valley has good room of requirements. So
absolutely.
I love that you said that.
The yellow, it's funny, the yellow building that's on the corner across from the judges, I call Home Depot, because it's yellow. We just call it Home Depot. Because then it's a facade, but like construction will store stuff in there. So it's just like, it's Home Depot.
It is Home Depot. The construction
I'll never unsee that now.
Sorry.
It's like a little Home Depot sign on it that's kind of
I've always wanted to do that as a joke.
Like handmade 1920s, but then you're just like, wait a minute.
Home Depot's calling me like, you can do that.
Just maybe it could just have a house on it and then say Depot. I'm just saying. I'll be looking for
There's
that.
ways to get around it. Yeah.
Hand painted, carved, something like
it.
that.
I love it.
Something in the window too. Just
We do rotate those windows out. Like we
What's
use
that?
those facade windows, and they're just box windows. So we're always
Mhm.
putting like different things in there.
Different things inside.
Yeah.
A little house, Depot.
A little hammer,
little measuring
tool
tape,
belt.
little leather tool
Excuse
belt.
me, I gotta make
We're here for you. We got
no one else might understand, but
we would laugh. We would do a big shout out.
We would.
like
We
that, Sarah, just
read it.
making things up again.
This is the stuff that people love, though, like a little Easter egg or something like
There's
that.
always Easter eggs. Set deck has too much fun. Just
Okay, so season 11 just ended. Everyone's going to start rewatching again now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any Easter eggs that you can remember from season 11?
Oh, I might have to rewatch it. I'll have to get back to you on that one. I actually can't remember. I feel like we were doing something in the mercantile. Yeah. Look at the mercantile. There's always something in the mercantile.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
always something in the mercantile.
There's always something in the mercantile. Yeah. I remember one year we had this weird little funny like snowman elf that they're like, please don't put this in set. This is not pretty. It's not cute. I'm like, yeah, going in now. And my onset hit it everywhere. In every shot, it was somewhere.
No, that's spectacular because it's really like Hope Valley's version of Elf on the Shelf.
Yeah, 100%. Like it was just peeking through a bush one day. Like and you'd have to zoom in so far to see it. But it happens. There was absolutely something on a shelf in the mercantile this year. I just can't remember what it was. I'll have to find it and screenshot it.
Okay, we'll have to
send it over.
See if we
That'll be fun.
Yeah. But the mercantile's got all those shelves and everything, and it's just asking to have things put on there.
No. Oh, I know. That's one of my favorite sets, in that I'm always wanting to change it. Like there's nothing wrong with it. I'm always like, okay, what can we do? What can we do?
Yeah.
Right. We recently had Siobhan Devine on there, and she said she loves to film in there just because there's so many things in there.
Yeah. And we did just start making that one corner kind of a rotating display corner, which was a lot of fun. So what's your favorite thing you've ever put in that corner? The laundry. Yeah. That was fun. That was so much fun. Yeah. I like the camping one too this last season. That was a cool one. I really enjoyed the camping one, but by far, like putting that in there and doing that gag that was fun.
With the laundry. Yeah. Super fun.
You cleaned the floor too, which was great.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So how far in advance do you get scripts so you can start planning?
We will so we shoot 6 blocks, and then we shoot 2 episodes per block. And so we'll get a block script the same day we start shooting the previous block. Okay. So when we start shooting block 1, day 1, I will get block 2's two scripts. So episode 3 and 4. So we get 3 weeks. So it's a 15-day shooting. 15? 13? I don't even remember.
Siobhan told us 13.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
It's shocking how much you can forget in a matter of a few months. It's like you it's always there, but then the most random things, you're like, wait a second, numbers.
Yeah, you probably blocked it out a little, like some of that stress.
Well, honestly, I call this my holiday show, not because it's easy. There's always challenges, and those challenges aren't always bad, but it's just you're back there with like your family, and you're hanging out in Jamestown, which is just so much fun. And so every day is, you've got your stress because every job has stress,
of course,
but it's also stress that is worth it.
Mhm.
You know, there's some stresses. You're like, why am I doing this? And you're like, I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing this, and I really enjoy it. And we'll get through this. So,
Yeah, I love that perspective.
yeah.
Do you love when you get the new scripts so you can just be like,
yeah. I instantly, it has the cover page, and then inside it's got our cast, and then the next page is like interiors and exteriors. So I'm always looking for like what's new.
right?
Always so excited about what's new. And then it's like, and then you go into your saloon, and then you go into the street, and you're seeing if there's any festivals happening and any parties.
Have you ever kind of been surprised by something on that list, and then you have like that 13 days to get what you need for that scene, the next block?
Yeah, I will say there's been a couple. I mean, Christmas was always a big
to do.
Yeah.
Foreboding because the amount of work you have to do. So finding out the extent of Christmas was always a big one. Season 6, that carnival.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
that was wild.
But that carnival was so good.
Oh, it was, and that was my first year as a decorator. So to be able to pull that off, my first ever time decorating a show ever.
Yeah,
was
you wouldn't know. Yeah.
So I was so proud of myself and my team, and it was also my birthday. So it was great. Yeah. It was,
that's still like such, those are such iconic scenes at the carnival there like that.
Yeah. I just remember the entire cast, because it was always big cast days. Mm-hmm. Everybody was always there. Yeah. Tons of background. Crew was massive, and everybody saying happy. They called me out. I was like taking a nap in our office because I pulled like a 3 day straight. Like I didn't sleep for 3 days. And they're like, oh, my on-set was like, Sarah, we need you on set. And I'm like,
right.
And what just happened there?
I don't
know. And I was just like panicking. I was like trying not to like start crying as I'm walking to the street. I'm like just imagining what could go wrong. And then all of a sudden everybody started singing happy birthday. And I'm just like, and she got it all on camera, and I'm just like bawling my eyes out.
Oh,
it was so good. But yeah, so that was a big one, reading that and being like,
okay.
Yeah.
We're going to do a carnival.
Period.
Could have used the heads up.
Carnival games. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
The strongman, that was like so.
Yeah, that was a modern strongman, obviously, but then we deckled it. We put it down, make it look old. And then doing a music festival.
Yes.
Right.
And then building a stage. That was like, that was an interesting one to get. Just because we sort of partially built stages out there.
Yeah.
And this time of year is always a little scary because it was fall. Yeah, we all know what Vancouver is like, and especially near the pond that like floods.
Right.
So like logistically, I was like, okay, we got this, and like we couldn't, like, it's hard to do covered areas like that for lighting and all, that. So wrapping my head around that one was really interesting. But I used to be in music. I organized music events before going.
Okay.
So there was like part of me that was like, well, wait a second, this is what I used to do.
I know
what I'm doing.
Okay, we need to get writers. We need to get per diems. What choirs are coming in, and so that was really fun. And then of course to have like Max coming back, and he's a musical guy too, and so it just like it was fun. But at first it was like a music festival. Like we've not actually seen a music festival before. We've seen these other little events, but and I say that being like, okay, so how do we make this different? Mm-hmm. And so making that marquee, that was fun. I kind of pitched
great.
I pitched that not knowing if they wanted to go that big.
Right.
This is, again, we're kind of, what is time in Hope Valley?
Right.
But that was pushing it a little bit. So I was like, idea? And they loved it. And I was like, yes. Because I love that
time period. Like there was like a lot of the circuses traveled at that time and had that look, and
oh, absolutely, yeah. And again, like, and I kind of brought all of my worlds together because then I also used to work in theater, and so music plus like theater
Mhm.
marquees. I was like, here we go.
We're good.
I got this. Like, just to be able to have that much fun creatively, and especially like I'm so grateful for this show because they embrace it. They embrace everyone's insanity and everyone's creativity and our OCDs and all like interesting little personality traits. And so, you know, when I get overly excited about things like that, they embrace it and boost me up instead of pushing me down. You know, like our production manager, like Megs, and just everybody, the directors, everybody is so supportive. And so you see these things, and normally you'd be like, "Oh," but you know that you're gonna do it because everyone wants everyone to succeed. And we want to push those envelopes and see what we can do because it's fun for us. And after 12 years, we want to obviously make things new and exciting too for you guys.
But you know that vision to make that made some beautiful backdrops for the shots. Like those shots are stunning. Like it's so fun as a viewer to see that, and then it gives us a little different look in a place we've been to for 11 seasons, right?
Yeah.
And so that vision that really pays off on screen too.
Yeah, I was really proud of how that looked, and then just like, you know, kind of changing the orientation of the space even, and adding like familiar elements but using them in different ways. That becomes like a really key thing within Hope Valley, because again, you're trying to be like, okay, what have they got lying around? What's in that? Again, probably room of requirement in the saloon because they are pulling how many parties, you know, last minute parties out. So what have they got in that trunk? But then how can we change it up? And so I think we saw something in that saloon that definitely we hadn't seen before. And that's always the goal. I loved it. And then kudos to like our greens department. Usually the greens department takes care of the exterior greens and flowers, and then set deck is the interior flowers. And so we had that beautiful we were kind of going for like a Midsummer Night's Dream feel in there. And so that's where the flowers and then, you know, the naturals kind of came in amongst this sort of moody, you know, burgundy. But I showed a reference photo to our greens department. But it was meant to be a set deck build. It was just like, hey, this is our color palette. And whatever. Do you have anything that we can borrow? And he's like, can I do this? It's like, do you want to do this? It's not your job. He's like, please, can I do this? I was like, set deck would love that off of their plate, I'm sure, because that was like an elaborate. And honestly, it was just a reference. I was like, I don't need a carbon copy of this. I just want this feeling. He banged out like exactly it. And the first time I saw that, I was like, jaw dropped. I was like, Travis Brooks for the win.
Love that. Love that.
Him and his team were amazing.
You know, so also with the music, so you got a bigger stage or more of a stage. Do you still have the stage or did it get disassembled?
That, well, we don't have enough space for that whole stage. So that got disassembled, but in good old fashioned When Calls the Heart, we keep everything.
Yeah. Because everyone's like, is Rosemary going to get to do some sort of theater thing? Like, this woman's been asking for a stage.
I know.
What, 2?
I'm on Rosemary's side here. Like, give the woman what she wants already.
Well, also just like the whole talent pool in that cast.
Yeah.
Huge. Like,
insane. Yeah.
I know. When I saw that the choir was performing, I'm like, awesome. Like, I need to hear some of these voices again.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'm just like, not all their singers are even in the choir. Like,
right.
It's just you kind of gotta love that.
I do.
So you, sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay. No, you were talking about the Midsummer's vibe in the saloon. And I was just thinking, do you have a favorite set that you've done in the saloon? Like, we've had so many events there, different weddings and the ball and so many different things. What was your favorite?
Oh my goodness. I love Jesse and Claire's wedding.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun with that. we went overboard on that one.
Yeah, I'm like, a lot of fun. There's a lot of work in that. There was
Yeah,
so
a lot of
much
work.
stuff.
That was one of those situations where we had our concept and we knew what we wanted to accomplish, but we actually surprisingly had a lot of time to set it up this time, which is very rare. And Neil Fearnley was our director for that one, and he'd come in and he'd be like, "This is amazing. Could you imagine this?" I was like, no need to imagine. And we had the time to kind of walk through it and take these notes. And so it became absolutely like that thumb again. It became
It's Ghost Jack.
I do think that my house is slightly haunted. It was built in 1910. It's a
Perfect.
1910. It's an old row house. I'm in an old row house.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
Are you?
A blue row house. Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's so fitting.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, I'm pretty sure some other people live here that are not myself. Yes. So that was interesting. And I think what is a standout, not only because of just the extent of it and the amount of detail, there's detail that no one ever saw. But we really had this unique opportunity to have a concept and then let it grow and let it develop along the way, which is very rare. It's usually like you get the set, you dress it, and it's, that's done.
Yeah.
But we could take these notes and we could do all these things, and we could, the director would come in and be like, hey, and I say, what else do you want? And we could give that to him, and instead of just being like, oh, it's okay, like we don't have time, and which happens way too often. And then we also kept it completely hidden from Jesse and Clara. They didn't see it until the day of. So that was cool too. There was like a very real wedding moment in that.
Yeah.
It was like surprise bride and groom.
Right.
That was fun. And I really loved the governor's ball. Because again, we're entering this new period, and so there was a hint of Art Deco in it.
Yeah.
That, true Art Deco we don't see until a little bit later in the 20s.
Yep.
But so to have that little, and then I had this idea. We always see the swagging, this way, and I was like, but what if we go up and down? And it was like something as simple as just like hanging drapes differently.
Gave it a different vibe.
Gave it a different vibe. Made it a little like grander. And then we had those gorgeous, and I actually don't know if we ever saw these, because this is the risk you take when you put anything on the ground. Chances are you'll never actually see it.
Okay.
And we had those beautiful stage shell lights with light shooting up those columns of fabric. I don't think we ever saw them on camera, but
but
they were good.
Yeah. And I knew going into it, I was like, I really want to put this in here just for that like one moment where you might catch it in a wide shot, but it's probably something that we'll never see. But I was like, I just do it anyways.
Well, then, doesn't that leave it open for the director to choose, because everything is set ready, so like they can get whatever they want, then they don't have to not go that way.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of budget, barring the budget, because that's always a reality of your job. But if you're talking to a director and they're like, I'm only going to see, this part, like, don't worry about this part. And sometimes you're like, yeah, that's a hard, like, we're not going to see it. Absolutely. We're not going to see it. It's a completely different angle. We're not going to need it. But sometimes it's fun just to like push the set a little bit more and open it up a little bit to give them that opportunity, because more often than not, they'll use it. You give it to them and they'll use it.
Right.
And so it's, I always think about that when I'm going into a design of can I give them a little bit more that, they might never see it, but they might, and it'll pay off. So.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned about the ball and how there was just a little hint of the Art Deco, and it made me wonder, are you and your team kind of adding something new as we're getting into 1922 soon? Like, are we going to see some new things?
Yeah, I am pushing for it. And a lot of it is dictated by the scripts.
Right.
Hopefully if there's newer sets, then that would mean like I get to, I get to build from scratch. And that's always fun, you know, especially for maybe going to a different town and traveling a little bit more, you know, like we're starting to see this train more and the train station and we saw all that, you know, in the last couple of seasons. So it's like, hey, maybe our world is broadening and you've got these great influences coming to town, or then you've got Rosemary, who, you know, is always as traditional as she might be, you know, she's still one to push those boundaries. And those are those little opportunities that you take. It's like, okay. Like, can Rosemary have like gone shopping somewhere and grab this and bring it in? But I think it's always in like the little details. Even just updating lamps. Updating lamps is a big one. And the style of window treatment. So, you know, you don't need to wallpaper and repaint and do all this stuff. You can add these little things that, because, you know, I don't go and I don't redecorate my house every year.
Right.
You know, it's but you see something you like and like you buy it and you replace it. And so it's gonna, it doesn't make sense for it to happen all at once. But you can be logical in and the mercantile is a great kind of portal for that, because you've got, you know, what new products are coming out and so what new things are we going to see at the mercantile or even at the Sew Shop, as far as like, you know, the beauty products that are there and these little things and of course Barbara does an incredible job with keeping up to date with the fashion and and yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to see how the storylines will develop and allow for these additions to happen or these new places that could bring us into a different world. The bigger city where, you know, Art Deco and the 20s or Roaring 20s are a little bit more forward than somewhere in the country.
Than your frontier town. So you're talking a little bit about like maybe a curtain change or something like that. So you have 2 row houses and 4 families living in the row houses for sure. Sometimes others, depending on the front steps or whatever. I mean, theoretically there's 12 or something like that. How do you keep track of, like, for you, like you literally have to keep track of who's got what in their row house, right?
Yeah. And that is set deck diligently labeling everything. So in our lockup, everything is grouped by sets. Everything has a color-coded label that has, like, you know, Nathan's row house and like the items that are in the box. So everything is like itemized, labeled, stored according to set. And then we also have reset photos. So our leads will go in after a set is dressed and they'll take photos of everything. And then our onset, of course, things change as soon as camera does land. So then our onset will go in and, you know, she takes screenshots of every setup. And then I have access to the dailies and that we're seeing. So I'll screen cap stuff. And then, you know, you're keeping invoices and you're keeping all of the receipts and stuff. And that's all itemized into sets. And so we have a really good way of keeping track of all of this stuff. I mean, tons of paperwork but like also just memory, right? There comes a point and you're just like, yeah, that frame that was in Rosemary's. Like, it's amazing how, you know, they're talking about needing, you know, a stool and for somebody like getting a dress hemmed. And I'm like, okay, we saw a stool 3 seasons ago in Dottie's. It's brown. It's got a brown leather top. Should be in our open stock because we got rid of Dottie's and we haven't brought it back since. So like you have that like, Rolodex of stuff, and it's amazing. Like, I can't remember my sister's name half of the time, but I will remember what was in the corner of Andrea's, you know, or Faith's, what was it, Faith's dad's house or something. I can't remember what we did that in that corner, you know, and it was green curtains. Like
I do kind of love that. I mean, in some years I feel like we're not in everybody's row house, but I like this in season 11, we were like in everybody's row house. I was like, oh gosh, that was a lot of work.
Yeah. And the fun part is usually we're shooting those because we do what's called like a company move. When we move out to the row houses, we actually have to pack up all the trucks and bring them out, because you can't have gear, 5 minutes
Right.
down the road. And so we're shooting all of our row house scenes within a couple of days, and then we don't go back. Sometimes we have to, but for the most part, we'll shoot Elizabeth's row house, and then we'll go to shoot Rosemary's. And while they're doing that, we're loading the truck of Elizabeth's, and we're loading in the Canfields. And then all of Elizabeth's stuff is on a truck.
Right.
But then usually the second row house is used by our shooting crew, and it's Video Village. So then sometimes we're working around them who are still in there if it's raining out. If it's nice out, we're lucky, and they've got Video Village set up, but then we're also having to move things in between rolling because sound travels.
Yes.
And sometimes we've had to swap sets over like a lunch break.
Wow.
And that'll be the direct working closely with the director and be like, we're only seeing this sliver, so we're only dressed that
They're
part.
only dressing that.
And then construction will come in first, put up the skins to change the wall colors. We did mess up though once. We don't do it often.
Easter egg.
But we did shoot Nathan's row house in the wrong row house.
Oh.
Yeah. We all thought we knew which row house it was meant to be in. And then all of a sudden, things weren't fitting properly, and we were having to recut it. And we're like, oh my goodness, these row houses are really shifting, and the walls it's sinking or something, because all these measures, nothing is fitting. And then all of a sudden we're like, we're in the wrong row house. But it didn't, it ultimately doesn't matter, because when you get those skins on, it looks the same. So it didn't matter if we shot it. But we were just going crazy. Oh my goodness. How are things changing this much? It's nah, we're in the wrong row house.
That's hysterical.
And we already did the all of the one-liner, everything had been already scheduled. So it's not like we could just be kidding. We're gonna change. We just had to roll with it. But yeah, that was funny. I don't know if I ever told the bosses about that one. So.
You know what? No one noticed.
No one noticed.
Yeah.
No one noticed.
You know what?
It was meant to be that way anyway.
No one noticed.
Yeah, that was. So I do make mistakes sometimes.
Yeah, I always think about when particularly season 11, we were in and out of the row houses a lot, and I'm like, oh, that's a lot of set deck change.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah, but and it's funny because they'll say hey, how much work will this take? And I go, oh, a ton of work, but it's worth it. Why not go into these row houses? Especially Nathan's row house has been sitting in our lockup for a couple of years because we never saw it for the longest time. And there was some good stuff in there. I'm use it because it's just rotting away.
Let's use it.
Please, let's use these beautiful pieces of furniture that we source and put our heart into. So I'm a big advocate of going into a new row house when we can, even if it is a bunch of work, because it's worth it. Why not?
Really
it's our job. It's our job.
And I think it's fun as the viewers too to actually feel like where these people live. Yeah, and you get to.
That's a huge part of it. You can't not see where these people's homes are. You can't have that that personal perspective, in a story like this. You can't.
Right.
Also, for Nathan and Allie's storyline in season 11, it had to be in their row house, right? Mm-hmm. It just that had to look. It had to be their space, right?
Yeah.
Those were so good.
Very important to do that. So
people notice the fish paintings and pictures on the wall, and people are the right things are there.
But there were new things, yeah,
and that is the other thing is, as everyone's oh, what was it? I'm honestly, I think the last time we saw it was season 6 or 7.
I think the Christmas episode between 6 and 7. Yep.
Yeah,
because they were in there and did the plant and the presents and all that.
That's right. And so I was it can change. It's okay. It would change,
Right.
And that is the part about this too, is that, even though they have access to these things, they're not changing couches every few years either, you know? So just to tag on to what we were saying. So it's okay to have these staples that are furniture. But absolutely, like, you know, let the set grow with the people who are, you know, the same way the people who occupy it are.
Right.
Yeah. We've heard a few times now that Elizabeth almost had a makeover in her house instead of her appearance, her hair. So were you excited about that possibility?
It was so they threw that at us like a week before we were gonna go to camera. And I'm like, that's a big ask. This is our hero. This is our hero's house. I can't mess this one up. Like,
can't piece it together, right?
I can't. It can't just be thrown together. And of course, like, to add to that, like the layer of talking with Erin and making sure that it was exactly what she wanted. You know, like getting those approvals and getting that input is, I mean, vital. Like, I don't want to do it if I don't have those opinions, because it's her space. You know, so the pressure was insane. And then yes, we were gonna wallpaper it and paint it and get new furniture. It was gonna be a massive overhaul. And so we of course wanted to go into the more Art Deco, because that was kind of like what the script was suggesting, and Rosemary, even, I can't remember what she says anymore, but yeah, it was written to be a very specific colors, and so there was some direction in that. Art Deco, I will say, is not necessarily film friendly, because it's overly patterned. That's pretty hard on a camera. So finding wallpaper that worked, was the right colors, and then we could get in time. And then so we had everything ordered, everything was ready, and then it changed to her hair, and I was so disappointed. But then the wallpaper never showed up. So
there you go.
It was a blessing in disguise, because you might not be talking to me now at this point. No,
I just feel like a week to change Elizabeth's look of her row house is not enough. Like, you need to get pieces, and you need, like, there's your kitty. You need
like the sticker button.
It will not be the first cat that has done that on our podcast.
For real.
For real. I just feel like you need so much more time than that. Like, you want it to have a look you're going to have for a while. So hair and clothes.
Yes.
Easier to control.
So you didn't get to keep any of the stuff that you ordered. Oh, that's a bummer.
That's sad.
No. And yeah, so as soon as the wallpaper arrived, I called them. I was like, I will not be picking this up. It's okay. You were too late. Meanwhile, I didn't need it, but Home Depot. It was Home Depot.
Yeah.
There you go. Another sign.
I just need something in the window there, a little.
No, it's true. I have ideas. Don't worry.
Okay. We'll be looking. We'll be looking for them.
Yeah.
I think that's half the fun of knowing the sets, though, too, is when we see something a little different too.
Yeah. It's also like, it's so funny going into like, was it? Oh yeah, it was the music festival when it was the Hardy family reunion.
Right.
And so I went, oh my goodness. Like, I mean, I love a little sneak peek, but at the same time, we had to like take down so much stuff. Hide it all, because you don't want big spoilers like that.
Right.
As fun as it would be, like, that's half of the excitement of the show. It's just like not knowing everything that's going to happen. So that's always hilarious. You get the script knowing that it's going to be the reunion, and then be like, okay. So then you make the wrap plan for it. You guys get your own special wrap plan. So that we're not spoiling anything for you guys. Yeah. But then you get to choose like what's going to be the little sneak peek. And I can't remember. I think it was the cafe. I can't remember. We hid the RCMP sign. I think we took the daycare sign down. We kept up the cafe. And then, we hit the festival, except the bunting. We just kept that up as celebratory. Yeah.
Welcome to Hope Valley.
You know, the funny thing is that you covered it, but it had been in discussion in lots and lots of groups. Plus, there's a there's a guy that runs Royal Canadian Mounted Police page that's like does a lot of When Calls the Heart stuff with it, and he's like, well, everything has to change because this is the right year, and so like nobody was like surprised about that. Just
yeah, no, exactly.
It was, like, the right time period.
Honestly, there's not like we can't keep anything secret at this point.
Right.
Like, it's like knowing your family, like knowing like if your family is telling a fib or something. Like,
right.
I know you are because I know you so well. So like, that's the way it is. It's like everybody just knows. Can't keep anything a secret.
That's so funny.
But everyone was just kind of laughing because as soon as people were like, oh, the Mountie sign is covered, and then everyone's like, well, of course, because it has to change. Like everyone knew that, so like because that's history and that's like fact. So.
Yes, exactly.
Right, which we actually don't always get to acknowledge in the show, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I was a little shocked when we did, like they said that they were making that change. I was like, I still don't know where we are. Where are we?
So 1921, season 11 was 1921, but I'm trying to remember what was said public. We've had some of the writers on or not about season 12. Was that said public or not? We know.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Where they'll be in season 12 too, but I don't know if that was said public. So now I'm just gonna like hold on to that.
Same. I can't even think about who said something. Well, this is fun. I love learning about all the ins and outs of what, like, it's so much work. You all put in so much work to create this, beautiful show that so many people love. I mean, the numbers this season are incredible. People are loving it. So yeah, thank you for sharing all that with us. It's
my pleasure.
Really interesting.
It's so it's beautiful to be able to be a part of like such a community who takes as much joy in what I do as I do. Because I think back to the reason I really got into film was watching the endless hours of special features on Lord of the Rings.
Oh, so good though.
I just obsessively would watch every weekend.
Love that.
But like I was so taken back by learning how it was done and the magic behind that and the respect then for those creators and those artists. And so it's just such a weird, and I still find it really hard to believe that there's a level of admiration for the team that I'm on and what we're creating. And so then to be able to sort of give back in the way that these people had given to me and like inspired me, it's just such a huge honor. And so I'll always answer questions because you take for granted the life that you've chosen and the work that you're doing. You can get overwhelmed, and then you realize not only is it do I love what I do, but there's other people that love it too. And if we can share in that and take joy in that, it's it's truly incredible. So I thank you for letting me be a part of it all.
We love that.
Oh, this was fun. Do you have, and what I wanted to say is people also love when you share your little behind the scenes on Instagram and stuff. It's a lot of fun. So keep doing that.
It will.
Do you have time to play a quick game with us?
Yes, I'm horrible at games. Please.
Yeah,
well, it's not a real game, so I think you'll be great at it. It's just a favorites game. So do you have a favorite rom-com?
Oh my goodness. I love The Notebook.
Oh, it's so good. Come on, it's so good.
It's so good.
Do you have a favorite TV series or a series you're binging? Outside of When Calls the Heart.
Schitt's Creek.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
We can be friends forever.
Obsessed with Schitt's.
Can have entire conversations and Schitt's Creek gifts.
That's all I do is send gifts. Every emotion that I'm feeling, every response I have.
There's always a David gift for it. Yeah.
Always. Especially being a parent now, it's just so much more relevant.
When my son sends me a selfie one day and he's just got a black and white sweater on and he says, who am I?
Yeah.
It's like, good morning, David.
Yeah.
It's spectacular. Great answer.
Oh, that was fun. Okay, what about a favorite food?
Oh, I am a massive pizza fanatic.
Oh, perfect.
Massive. And I live in Little Italy. So
Oh, then that's perfect. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
do you make your own? But if you're living in Little Italy,
I do. We do attempt.
Yeah.
We do. Yeah. My sister and her little one comes over and we'll make pizza. And it's so much fun. And, I mean, half of the ingredients just get eaten by
of
Sammy.
course,
And there's
that's why it's the perfect toddler food to make.
oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Yes. Yeah. So
Right.
pizza for sure.
Mhm.
So, what's your favorite topping on your pizza?
Mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mushroom onion combo, but like if I had to choose one, it would be mushrooms.
Okay.
Love that. And then favorite music. Do you have a favorite artist or band or both?
I mean, that's a really, really, really hard one because music is just a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
Currently, the only thing I'm listening to is the Bluey soundtrack.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I hear it every day. So
Obsessed. If I had to choose like one artist to only ever listen to again, it'd be Rod Stewart.
oh,
A classic. Yep.
Yeah.
outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
But
Julie,
I'm
have
like,
you met him?
I have not met Rod Stewart, but I have met a lot of people.
Julie often gets to meet big musicians. Yeah.
Whatever.
They come in. She works at a children's hospital, and they come in.
Kitty corner from a major
Yeah.
venue. So before COVID, they used to all come over.
Oh, I love
Because
that.
I just told Sarah earlier today, oh, I've met the Wiggles.
That's awesome. I love that.
That's also why I hear Bluey a lot too. So
Yeah. I mean, having worked in the music industry, like I'm so lucky to have met so many big hitters, like Jay-Z and all that.
Yeah.
But the one close to my heart, and that's just because like growing up, that was my mom's favorite,
Yeah.
and so I just grew up with Rod Stewart singing all his songs, appropriate or
Rod
inappropriate.
Stewart, iconic though.
I've seen him so many times in concert.
So, what did you do in music? Did you ever tell us? You did you organized the
I started my own promotions company when I was 18, and I started just putting on concerts here, and then I worked for Live Nation, and then I helped put together like some local festivals, and then like the Juno Fest, and then I moved to Toronto, and I worked for Dynalone Records and Black Box Music, and then I just did some contract work with big events and putting like Olympics on and stuff like that, and
like Olympics,
just the Olympics.
So the music side of things, so I kind of have my hat in everything, but music promotions and music based event planning and touring, is what I did.
Wow, you've done so much.
I'm very lucky to have crossed and checked off a lot of big things on my life's to-do list already. So now it's When Calls the Heart and my little monkey man. Those are my priorities. Yeah.
It's a nice. We see that you bring him to set all the time, and so cute.
He was so mad because I brought him to a different set. I was like, "You're gonna come to work with Mama today," and he was so excited. And we show up, and it's a different movie. And he was like, "This doesn't work, Mama." Where's Gam Gam? Gam Gam. No,
I don't blame him.
This doesn't feel right.
But then he was like, "Okay," and then just started working. Like he just goes and helps departments.
Perfect.
This kid loves working. So, he's a bit of a screamer right now because he's a toddler. So we'll see how much he gets to set this year. We'll just put him in Gam Gam.
I've gone through that stage. Yes.
Yeah, put him in the trailer and just lock the door.
Right. Well, everyone should have their grandfather on set. So like
it's the best. And then I get my dad out there, and it's just like he's just in love with being at Mama's work with his grandparents, his two grandparents.
Yeah. I mean, what kid wouldn't love that? Yeah.
Right.
Especially work like where you work. Yes.
It's magical.
Yeah.
Sarah, why don't you tell us where people can find you on social media so they can see when you post fun things?
Yeah, I think at S_MABBS Mabs.
Okay.
Is my Instagram handle, and I don't have anything else. Oh, that's a lie. I'm Sarah Mabberley on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
Forgot I have Facebook. But yeah, Instagram is where the only thing I really I understand these days.
Okay. Perfect. We love that.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Well, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledge with us today, Sarah. We hope you come back again someday.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so glad everyone loved season 11. And yes, season 12 is going to be a doozy. So.
Oh, we can't wait.
Yeah.
Hang out with us here.
Yeah. Hang out for 1 second and we'll end the recording. So thank you everybody for watching.
Bye.
Bye.